Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 8 based on novel. So let's start. A seemingly boundless grey energy violently swelled within Lindong's bodies akin to tidewaters. The places that it visited, even including the meridian, showed signs of withering. The corrosive power of the desolate force was obviously extremely terrifying. Lindong clearly realized this fact as his gaze immediately grew more and more solemn. Although it must be said that he was not afraid of the overbearing desolate force since he could rely on the devouring ancestral symbol within his body as a seal, it is never a bad idea to be a little extra cautious. At this moment, with a thought of his mind, wisps of green light started to scatter from within Lindong's body. Under the envelopment of this green light, those meridian which were showing signs of withering due to the corrosion by the desolate force, started to regenerate rapidly. Having practiced the green heaven materialized dragon skill, Lindong's muscles and skin were not only resilient, even his organs and viscera also possessed the same formidable defensive power. Devour all of them. Lindong revolved the green heaven materialized dragon skill to block the corrosion by the desolate force. At the same time, vigorous devouring force erupted from his body without restraint and completely devoured those waves of desolate force invading his body, before condensing them in his dantian. Under the continuous influx of desolate force within his dantian, the grey mist started to condense faster. Gradually there were signs of the condensation taking shape within his dantian. While Lindong was trying his best to defend against the vast amount of desolate force trying to rush into his body, many gazes from the surroundings stayed unblinking on his body. All those gazes were filled with some degree of shock. They could see that the withering signs originally present on Lindong's body had actually began to gradually halt. Lindong actually managed to resist the frightening desolate force that was invading his body. The blind old man used his ashen grey eyes to stare at the youth beside the desolate stone. His tense body started to gradually relax. He could feel large quantities of desolate force continuously flowing from the desolate stone into Lindong's body. What made him feel quite shocked was that there was no uncomfortable expression on Lindong's face when handling the vast amount of desolate force. Within his body, it seems like there is something that is able to contend with the desolate force. The blind old man muttered to himself. Although he could not see, his other senses were extremely keen. From his other senses, he could vision that Lindong's thin body was akin to a bottomless pit. No matter how hard he tried to probe, he still could not fathom its depths. At this rate, it would take no more than half a day for him to condense a desolate seed. This rate is much faster than that fellow Ju Tong. If Chen Zhen or Wu Dao knew about this, they would probably be totally dumbfounded. It looks like another outstanding person has joined the desolate hall this time. Lindong was obviously unable to sense the shocked gazes originating from his surroundings, as he was totally focused on the massive foreigner that was invading his body. As more and more desolate force invaded his body, Lindong could gradually feel that there was a mysterious type of fluctuation being emitted from within the enormous desolate stone. This sensation, Lindong had obviously felt before this kind of mysterious fluctuation before. He faintly frowned, however, without giving him much time to think, the fluctuation suddenly grew increasingly violent. Increasingly savage desolate force unexpectedly erupted forth and violently rushed towards him. The desolate force this time around was several times more violent than before. Furthermore, their offensive intention was extremely clear. It felt as if someone was controlling the desolate stone and launching an attack at him. Lindong suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes sparkled as he stared at that enormous desolate stone. He was a disciple of the desolate hall, and under normal circumstances, there should not be anyone that would create difficulties for him by manipulating the desolate stone. In that case, that attack should have been launched by the desolate stone itself. Soul treasure, huh? Lindong's gaze sparkled before he promptly took a deep breath of air while a shocked expression fluttered across his eyes. This desolate stone was actually a soul treasure. Furthermore, it was a soul treasure that had some degree of consciousness. Pure Yuan treasure. Lindong tugged at the corners of his mouth. A soul treasure that was able to possess such frightening energy was absolutely something that any ordinary heavenly soul treasure could not compare with. Then, There was obviously only one possibility left. That means that the desolate stone was actually a pure Yuan treasure, similar to the heavenly sealing array that those people from the West Xian region used. Raw? While Lin Dong was secretly feeling shocked by the status of the desolate stone in front of him, a murky grey light suddenly erupted from the surface of the desolate stone. The light started wriggling before congealing, lighting quick into a grey beam. It snaked on the surface of the stone like lighting, before attacking Lin Dong. The sudden move by the desolate stone immediately caused many startled whooshing sounds from the surroundings. Many disciples stood up on the platform and looked at this scene in shock. Obviously this was the first time over so many years that they had seen the desolate stone take the initiative to launch an attack. At the same time, Lin Dong obviously discovered the intention of the desolate stone as he immediately frowned. Immediately, he did not dare to underestimate it as boundless green light erupted from the heart of his palm. The green light rushed towards the grey light and viciously slammed against it. Bang! A low and deep impact sound resounded out from the surface of the desolate stone. A shocking quantity of energy fluctuations erupted out, causing all the surrounding air to be blasted away. Humph! Lin Dong's body violently trembled a few times before a snorting noise came out of his throat. His finger, which was in contact with the desolate stone, turned numb. However, what truly frustrated him was that the desolate stone actually withdrew the desolate force. From its actions, it was as if it was unwilling to let Lin Dong absorb such a large quantity of desolate force. Lin Dong's gaze turned solemn. His desolate seed was about to take shape and he naturally wanted to complete it in a single try. If he was to give up now, it was obviously not going to be possible. With a thought, he spread open his palms and pressed all 5 fingers against the desolate stone. At every spot where his fingers touched the desolate stone, 5 streams of devouring force congealed in a black ray of light and directly shot straight into the desolate stone, before rapidly drilling into the deeper sections. When those black rays of light drilled into the desolate stone, the stone obviously felt what had happened. Immediately, wave after wave of incomparably violent desolate force surged forth and easily blocked Lin Dong's attack. He actually aroused the ire of the desolate stone, muttered the blind old man. A somewhat intrigued expression appeared on his face. This scene was almost identical to what happened to that fellow back then. Damn it! After sensing the rejection from the desolate stone, Lin Dong could not help but curse while clenching his teeth. If he was able to fully exhibit the power of the devouring ancestral symbol, he would not be afraid of the desolate stone. However, under the gazes of many people, he was unwilling to expose the secret within his body. The desolate stone obviously sensed the hopelessness and hesitation from Lin Dong. It immediately turned rampant and launched wave after wave of desolate force, which directly impacted and suppressed the 5 rays of black light back into Lin Dong's body. It then proceeded to flaunt its prowess to force Lin Dong to back away. Lin Dong frowned. He had obviously never expected that his all-out absorption of the desolate force would provoke such a violent reaction by the desolate stone. This put him in a dilemma. Lin Dong's fingers, which were in contact with the desolate stone, violently trembled as waves of repulsive force spread out from within the desolate stone. It was attempting to push his fingers off. Lin Dong's facial expression turned slightly ugly as glanced over at his fingers, which were being gradually repulsed by the desolate stone. Was he going to fall short of his goal in the end? If he was unable to condense a desolate seed, he would obviously be unable to practice the desolate martial arts. One by one, Lin Dong's fingers were shaken and repulsed by the desolate stone. Regardless of how hard he struggled, he was still unable to resist the repulsive energy coming from the desolate stone. He had finally experienced firsthand the frightening strength of a pure Yuan treasure. Fuck you. When he saw his last finger being pushed off, Lin Dong grew angry and could not resist, resulting in a curse escaping from his mouth. At this moment, however, he suddenly felt something in his body starting to violently shake. Before he even realized what was happening, a temperate white glow directly shot out of his last remaining finger and flew straight inside the desolate stone viciously. A faint penetration sound rang out from within the desolate stone as that temperate white glow directly slammed against layers of desolate force within the desolate stone. After which, it broke through countless layers with a speed akin to snapping bamboo. Under the dumbfounded observation by Lin Dong, the temperate white glow pierced through all the defensive layers of the desolate stone within a short span of 10 seconds, before it finally reached the deepest part of the stone. At that moment, a peculiar fluctuation started to spread out. When this fluctuation appeared, Lindong was shocked to find out that the fluctuation within the depths of the desolate stone was actually beginning to tremble. Roar roar! While Lindong was still in shock, waves of extremely vigorous desolate force rushed out of the desolate stone akin to the bursting of flood waters. With a frightening speed, they rushing into the depths of Lindong's body before pouring into his dantian. Due to the arrival of the seemingly crazy amount of desolate force, the grey mist within the dantian started to condense. With a sudden tremble, it finally condensed into a fist-sized grey-coloured bead. At this moment, Lindong had finally condensed a desolate seed. Boundless fluctuations of energy swept across Lindong's body the instant the desolate seed was formed. Contained within these fluctuations were incredibly rich and formidable desolate force. Is this desolate force? These strong and familiar fluctuations were immediately detected by all the surrounding disciples. After sensing it, each and every one of them was shocked. To be able to emit desolate force, one had to first succeed in condensing a desolate seed. And to be able to condense a desolate seed, one must have mastered the desolate art till the 3rd level. For most disciples to reach that level, it would require many months of hard work. Even those senior direct disciples like Jiang Hao had taken an entire month in order to condense a desolate seed. However, under their nose, Lindong used less than half an hour to condense a desolate seed. Is that fellow even human? Asked a few disciples as they looked at each other in black dismay as a feeling of powerlessness washed over their hearts. Lindong's training progress made people unable to even muster the courage to compete with him. This fellow was simply too sick. A shocked expression swiftly flashed past the blind man's face at this moment. He was not shocked by the incredible rate that Lindong managed to condense his desolate seed. What made him really shocked was that Lindong actually managed to withstand the repulsive force from the desolate stone. The blind old man was obviously well aware of the might of the desolate stone. Although at the beginning the desolate stone was only repelling Lindong by instinct, its strength was something that a disciple like Lindong was absolutely unable to contend with. However, right now, Lindong had actually managed to withstand the repulsion from the desolate stone. If not, he would not have been able to absorb such a massive amount of desolate force and condense a desolate seed. He could even resist the repulsion of the desolate stone, said the blind old man before chuckling once. This disciple called Lindong was truly surprising. Under the gazes of the numerous people around, Lindong slowly opened his faintly closed eyes. At this moment, a grey glow swept past from within his eyes, which made him look somewhat peculiar. At this point, Lindong's fingers were no longer on the desolate stone. He stared at the desolate stone, before a faint upward curl involuntarily surfaced on his lips. So what if it was a pure yuan treasure? In the end, it was still subdued by him. That previous temperate white glow was obviously radiated by the mysterious stone talisman within Lindong's body. That thing was extremely low-key and it hardly made a move. However, every time it did, it was able to achieve quite a good result. Lindong examined the fist-sized desolate seed hovering in the middle of his dantian for a while. Within that desolate seed, he could feel a mysterious energy. It was quite vigorous and it should be the so-called desolate force. One has to practice the desolate art till the 3rd level in order to condense a desolate seed. Looks like my desolate art has reached the 3rd level, Lindong thought to himself as he rubbed his chin. He was obviously extremely satisfied with this result. Although it had to be said that he relied on the devouring ancestral symbol and the mysterious stone talisman, this was obviously not a major issue for the pragmatic Lindong. Lindong was clearly aware that it was not difficult for him to learn the desolate art since he had the devouring ancestral symbol. According to his calculations, if he was to shut himself off and practice in front of the desolate stone for an entire month, it would not be difficult for him to reach the 7th level of the desolate art. Furthermore, right now, the only disciples that could reach that stage were Jiang Hao and the other 3 senior direct disciples. Of course, Lindong did not know that when ordinary disciples reached the 3rd level of desolate art, the desolate seed that they condensed was only the size of a peach seed. However, the quality of the desolate force within their desolate seed was so much more inferior compared to the desolate force produced by his desolate seed. However, right now, Lin Dong did not bother practicing the desolate art. He knew that his previous performance was quite eye-catching. If he was to act more ruthlessly, he was afraid that it would affect the morale of the other disciples. Therefore, when his desolate seed condensed and took shape, Lin Dong withdrew his hand and retreated to the outside of the platform under the numerous gazes of the surrounding people. On the platform, those gazes still followed Lin Dong as he retreated, causing the surrounding atmosphere to turn slightly weird. This caused Lin Dong to feel somewhat helpless. Fortunately, this situation did not continue for long. After staring at Lin Dong for a while, those disciples finally returned to reality. They gave a soft sigh before finally withdrawing their gazes and continued their training. Only upon seeing those gazes finally turning away, did Lin Dong heave a deep sigh of relief. Just as he retreated away from the platform, he heard some sounds coming from behind him and hurriedly turned around. Having turned around, he saw the blind old man that was previously standing at the entrance of the stone pyramid, was now standing behind him. The blind old man used his ashen-grey eyes to stare at Lin Dong, before faintly sweeping over his body. As he did that, Lin Dong felt a vague fluctuation passing gently and swiftly scanning across his body, causing his heart to immediately turn cold. If that fellow Ju Tong knew that his record was surmounted by a later generation member, his expression would surely be splendid, said the blind old man. His voice was incredibly hoarse, however, it possessed a mysterious strength that could touch a person's heart and soul. Lin Dong did not dare to neglect this mysterious blind old in front of him. Although he could not detect any yuan power fluctuation from the blind old man, he had an intuition that this blind old man was likely more powerful than the two hall masters. Worthy of the Tao sect? Thinking about this, Lin Dong could not resist but secretly voice his admiration. These were the hidden aces of the super sects. After accumulation over countless years, there would definitely be a few terrifying individuals hidden within. With a thought, he respectfully saluted towards the blind old man and said, "This junior used some unorthodox methods and cannot be compared to senior Ju Tong. In this world, the result is all that matters." "That fellow Ju Tong was also blessed just like you," said the blind old man casually before giving a smile. Lin Dong casually scratched his head. It seems like that senior Ju Tong was a rare genius that was blessed. "You haven't found a martial arts, right?" said the blind old man as he stared at Lin Dong with his pupil-less grey eyes. Lin Dong awkwardly nodded his head. There were many martial arts stone tablets here. However, he had yet to discover anything that piqued his interest. "Looks like you are quite ambitious. If you are so confident in yourself, follow me and I'll bring you to the place where Ju Tong went before," said the blind old man. Without saying anything else, he proceeded to turn around and walk towards the depths of the Great Hall. His behavior seemed as if he did not care if Lin Dong was going to follow him or not. Lin Dong felt slightly helpless after seeing how carefree the blind old man was. However, his final statement generated quite a bit of interest within him. Although he had only entered the desolate hall for a short while, he had heard of the great senior Ju Tong quite a few times. Therefore, he was especially interested in this person, who had an extremely high place in the hearts and minds of the Tao sect disciples. Taking a step forward, Lin Dong closely followed behind the blind old man. The blind old man's walking pace was consistent with no trace of anxiousness nor slowness. His small footsteps were akin to a sickly old man that had to move slowly due to a lack of strength. Lin Dong calmly followed him and he did not lose his cool because of the old man's slow and stumbling speed. Instead, his eyes looked at his nose, while his nose faced his heart and he stayed calm throughout the journey. Under this slow walking pace, Lin Dong walked for roughly an hour within this martial arts hall, before discovering that the old man in front had suddenly stopped. When the old man stopped, Lin Dong raised his eyes instantly. Promptly, he saw that in front of him was a bowl-shaped light membrane. Within it were 4 barely visible stone tablets standing erect quietly. The blind old man slowly raised his thin and wrinkled palm. As he gently swiped downwards, a ray of light shot out of his finger. After which, Lin Dong saw that the ray of light had directly tore apart the light membrane and forcefully ripped a small opening. Is that mental energy? Lin Dong narrowed his eyes and stared intensely at the old man's fingertip. At that instant where it sparkled, he clearly detected a familiar fluctuation, which was mental energy. However, the mental energy fluctuation that was being emitted from the body of the old man was countless times more solidified than those emitted by him. If Lin Dong's mental energy was equivalent to a small spring, the old man was perhaps equivalent to an ocean. There was simply no way to compare the two of them. His primary focus is on mental energy. Seeing the old man's action, Lin Dong's heart trembled. However, he suddenly understood why he did not feel any yuan power fluctuation from the old man's body. It seems like this blind old man primarily cultivated his mental energy. This was the first time he had ever seen a person with such powerful mental energy. The blind old man did not know what Lin Dong was thinking and proceeded to tear open the hole. He gently walked step by step inside, while Lin Dong rapidly followed him behind. After entering the light membrane, the ray of light grew dim instantly. A mysterious pressure started to radiate from the front, causing Lin Dong's heart to turn cold. Noticing the pressure, he raised his head and looked towards his front. At that spot, stood 4 black-colored stone tablets. Furthermore, the pressure was coming from those stone tablets. The black-colored stone tablet quietly stood within the light and it looked just like a fearsome ancient beast. A wave of shocking evil aura was faintly emitted by it before it rippled across the air and causing one to feel pressured. These 4 stone tablets were extremely tall and large, and they were even larger than the other stone tablets that Lin Dong saw in the martial arts hall previously. Moreover, the fluctuation that the stone tablets possessed was something that those stone tablets did not have. Each of these 4 stone tablets contains an extremely powerful martial art. From a certain point of view, they can be considered as the strongest martial arts other than the great desolated scripture. The blind old man placed his hands behind his back. His grayish-white eyes looked towards the 4 stone tablets as he spoke faintly. Ordinary disciples will not get to learn these 4 martial arts. Currently, only the 4 senior direct disciples in Desolate Hall have learned the martial art on the first stone tablet. As for the remaining 3, no one has successfully mastered them yet. Lin Dong's face changed a little. The Desolate Hall was brimming with talented geniuses. It was unexpected that only 4 people had learnt one of these 4 martial arts. Is there any ranking amongst these 4 martial arts? Lin Dong suddenly asked. If one must really rank them, the martial arts on the first stone tablet is indeed a little easier to learn. The second is a little trickier. As for the third and fourth, it would not be overboard to say that they are the strongest. Back then, Ju Tong mastered the martial art on the third stone tablet. As for the fourth, he did not successfully master it the first time he was here. The blind old man slowly said. Oh. Lin Dong was slightly moved. The martial art on the 4th stone tablet was actually this abnormally difficult? Even that senior Ju Tong failed to master it? It is not because his talent is lacking. Rather, the martial art on the 4th stone tablet has some peculiar requirements. The blind old man paused when he spoke until this point. As he briefly glanced at Lin Dong, he finally continued, this martial art requires someone who is good at both yuan power and mental energy. Lin Dong's heart suddenly jumped. Was this directed at him? You can observe first before you decide on the stone tablet martial arts that you wish to learn. The blind old man waved his hand and spoke in an indifferent manner. Understood. Lin Dong hurriedly replied in a respectful manner upon hearing this. After which, he swiftly stepped forward. His eyes swept across the first stone tablet. The stone tablet's body was as black as a piece of metal. For ancient words that were seemingly carved by a Dremel appeared on the tablet in a glaring fashion. Great Star Majestic Fist. Lin Dong's eyes stared at those ancient words. He could sense a majestic, wild and violent sensation pouncing from those words. It was likely that this martial art was best suited for a direct brute force practitioner. Is this the martial arts that Jiang Hao and the rest learnt? Lin Dong's eyes flickered slightly. He mused for a moment before taking another step and walked towards the second stone tablet. The second stone tablet had a dark black longsword carved onto it. Black fog lingered on the longsword. There was a dark and cold aura seeping from it, and even Lin Dong felt his skin turn chilly. Great Dark Erosion Sword. These simple four words were permeated with a chilling aura. This martial art was different from the Great Star Majestic Fist, which relied on might and brute force. However, that dark and cold feeling felt just like having maggots in one's bones, causing one to be unable to dodge them. Lin Dong stood in front of this stone tablet and mused for a moment. Finally, he shook his head. This martial arts was far too dark and cold, and it was unsuitable for him. Immediately, he ceased hesitating, turned around and walked towards the third stone tablet. The third stone tablet appeared a lot more ordinary than the first two. It was also dark grayish in color. There was a human figure seated on the tablet. However, that person's body looked shriveled and dry. At a glance, it appeared as though it was a shriveled land. However, it was vaguely possible to feel a shocking energy being emitted from within his carcass. Lin Dong's eyes stared at the human figure. After which, his eyes were lifted slightly. He saw three ancient words on the human figure drawing. Great Desolate Body. That name was ordinary without any fancy aspect to it. However, it possessed a majestic aura. This is the martial art that Senior Ju Tong chose her. Lin Dong curled his mouth while his brows also frowned a little. Great Desolate Body should be a martial art that strengthened one's body. For Lin Dong, there was a clear conflict since he had already cultivated in the Green Heaven Materialized Dragon skill. Currently, he had already spent quite a lot of effort on learning the Green Heaven Materialized Dragon skill. If he was to divert his attention and practice another body-tempering martial arts, he might end up failing at both instead. Based on what that blind old man previously said, Lin Dong knew that the Great Desolate Body was one of the best amongst the four martial arts. Only the fourth martial art, which Lin Dong had yet to see, could be compared with it. From this, one could tell just how powerful this martial art was. However, Lin Dong already had the Green Heaven Materialized Dragon skill. Lin Dong hesitated in front of the stone tablet for a long while. Finally, he shook his head and decisively turned away. The Great Desolate Body might be powerful, but if given a choice, Lin Dong would choose the Green Heaven Materialized Dragon skill, which he was more familiar with. At a short distance away, the blind old man's wrinkled face twitched when he saw this scene. Immediately, his grayish-white eyes stared intently at Lin Dong's footsteps. Lin Dong's legs paused in front of the final stone tablet. He inhaled a deep breath of air before raising his head and looking at the stone tablet in front of him. There were no words on the stone tablet. However, there was a large black eye on the dark black tablet's surface. Lin Dong was startled when he saw that black-colored eye. At this moment, the latter also appeared to be staring at him. This sensation caused all the hair on Lin Dong's body to involuntarily stand. This martial art is a little creepy. Although Lin Dong felt creeped out, he still forcefully stared back at that black-colored eye. The atmosphere quietened down instantly. After this face-off lasted for a couple of minutes, Lin Dong suddenly discovered that the black eye on the stone tablet had actually blinked. This discovery directly caused the skin on Lin Dong's face to turn numb. However, before he could do anything, a slight black light shot out from that black eye. The light entered Lin Dong's opened eyes. This sudden action startled Lin Dong. Immediately, the Yuan power within his body began to swirl as a reflex action. However, he immediately discovered that the black light did not cause him any harm. Instead, some information flowed through his mind. There was a unique beast in ancient times called Huang, and it had one eye. Whenever it opened its eye, everything within thousands of kilometers would turn into waste. As time passed, it will erode one's vitality. Wave after wave of ancient information swiftly flashed across Lin Dong's mind. This also allowed him to have a better understanding of this martial art. Based on the information that he obtained, the martial art on this stone tablet was called the Desolate Demon Eye. This martial art was seemingly derived from the unique ancient beast called Huang. Although Lin Dong was unaware if the complete mastery of this martial art would enable him to reach the terrifying stage of turning everything within thousands of kilometers into wasteland, it was still possible to see just how powerful this martial art was. Those previous messages did not contain any information regarding its cultivation methods. Clearly, this martial art was very demanding on its practitioners. Lin Dong's footsteps paused in front of the stone tablet. He raised his eyes and stared intently at the black-colored eye in front of him. His eyes flickered. Clearly, there was quite a huge struggle going on in his heart. The desolate demon eye was quite sinister, and even Lin Dong did not possess the confidence that he could successfully master it. If he was unable to learn it, he would have wasted a great amount of time for nothing. The blind old man remained quiet as he looked at Lin Dong, who had fell into silence. He did not know which martial art Lin Dong would choose. This quiet and tense atmosphere continued for half an hour. After which, the blind old man saw Lin Dong take a step back. He has given up, huh? The blind old man's grayish-white eyes lowered slightly upon seeing this. He felt a little disappointed for some unknown reason. His shriveled hand gently rubbed his eyes. The sudden sound of someone sitting down rang out just as the blind old man felt a little disappointed. He raised his eyes. After which, he was surprised to see that Lin Dong had already sat down in front of a stone tablet. "Elder, I shall choose this martial art." Lin Dong's voice was also transmitted over at this moment. It landed into the ears of the blind old man. The blind old man was quiet for a moment upon hearing this. Suddenly, his voice became hoarse as he said, "There is a risk in learning this martial art. If anything goes wrong, your eyes might end up like mine." Lin Dong's heart was shaken slightly. Based on what he said, it seems like this blind old man had also practiced the desolate demon eye before. However, it seems like he failed. There is no free lunches this world. Lin Dong inhaled a deep breath of air. One must pay the price for any reward. This concept was something that he understood right from the start. After his words sounded out, Lin Dong's eyes slowly shut in front of the complicated expression of the blind old man. This video will end here.